2 Corinthians 2. But I determined this with myself, that I would not come again to you in heaviness. For if I make you sorry, who is he then that maketh me glad, but the same which is made sorry by me? And I wrote this same unto you, lest, when I came, I should have sorrow from them of whom I ought to rejoice, having confidence in you all that my joy is the joy of you all. For out of much affliction and anguish of heart I wrote unto you with many tears, not that ye should be grieved, but that ye might know the love which I have more abundantly unto you. But if any have caused grief, he hath not grieved me, but in part, that I may not overcharge you all. Sufficient to such a man is this punishment which was inflicted of many. So that, contrariwise, you ought rather to forgive him and comfort him, lest perhaps such an one should be swallowed up with overmuch sorrow. Wherefore I beseech you that ye would confirm your love toward him. For to this end also did I write, that I might know the proof of you, whether ye be obedient in all things. To whom ye forgive anything, I forgive also. For if I forgave anything to whom I forgave it, for your sakes forgave I it in the person of Christ, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. Furthermore, when I came to Troas to preach Christ's gospel, and a door was opened unto me of the Lord, I had no rest in my spirit, because I found not Titus my brother. But taking my leave of them, I went from thence into Macedonia. Now thanks be unto God, which always causeth us to triumph in Christ, and maketh manifest the savour of his knowledge by us in every place. For we are unto God a sweet savour of Christ, in them that are saved, and in them that perish. To the one we are the savour of death unto death, and to the other the savour of life unto life. And who is sufficient for these things? For we are not as many which corrupt the word of God, but as of sincerity, but as of God, in the sight of God speak we in Christ.
Good evening. It's Thursday, August 21st, 2014. This is your host, Mike Callahan, and this is the Watchman News. And that obviously wasn't me reading. I found that nice little tool on the website that I've been using this whole time, and now maybe I possibly won't mispronounce words if I'm not the one saying them. I'm going to try that for a while, see how that goes. I do feel a little disconnect not actually reading it myself. Sometimes it puts me a little bit more in the mood for the show, the right kind of perspective. So we'll see how it goes. Got a lot of news for you tonight. Like last night, I'll wait until the end to cover the Ferguson news. Not a whole lot going on, I will say real quick. Not a whole lot going on. I just got a Reddit update that some protesters are showing up Other than that, I do have some news associated with it. I will get to that a little bit later. Let me bring back that window, and we will get to our first news story. We're actually getting around the world again. Well, let's do. I apologize. See, I'm trying to go backwards again. We'll do suspicious observers first. I still have no further updates on News in 2 Minutes. I checked their YouTube channel today. Didn't see anything new. Still from the announcement from 2 weeks ago. So hopefully they get back up and going again soon. For now, let's do suspicious observers for today, and then we'll get on with what I have for you.
Good morning, folks. Dr. Phillips at spaceweather.com sums this up nicely. The CME impact was puny, but the geomagnetic storm was significant. While the experts are blaming a south-pointing magnetic filament within the cloud, we've seen those numerous times beforehand, and they've never produced the level of magnetic instability we saw 2 nights ago. I'll stick with the idea that the magnetic field is in trouble. By the way, go ahead and Google magnetic field in trouble. Cosmic rays are in flux with the waning space weather, not at scary levels or anything, just much more in flux than previous days. The solar wind shows a bottoming out of speed and density, with the reverberations of the magnetic storm pushing the KP index back to 3, but the event is now past. Solar flaring went into a brief uptick, mostly due to incoming spots, including one on the limb we couldn't really see until this morning. Going right to left, we see a beta grouping down south, small and magnetically separated. That separation is even more apparent up north, as we've got the size but not enough mixing for big flares. Party at the limb calmed down as soon as it crested into view from Earth. Been seeing that for about 3 years now. Did you notice anything odd? Red negative leading up north, positive blue leading down south. Except that is a positive blue lead in the north. Reversed polarity sunspot, and it's not just surface magnetism either. This is a signal that the solar pole flip may be complete. So we come to Wilcox, and what do you know? Positivity for the northern field. It was negative all last cycle and therefore must be positive before we called this reversal complete, but it has done this multiple times already during this alleged solar maximum, the first of which was all the way back in 2011. The north field has taken 3.5 years to get here, and for all we know, it'll go back to negative at the next update. But this is indeed encouraging for completion. Otherwise, calm star presented to Earth right now, eyes on that active region with reverse polarity and a couple of the plasma filaments. We're hopping over to the ESO, the European Southern Observatory, to zoom in on the Milky Way for a close-up of massive star-forming regions. Link for the full videos and article can be found below. This is mind-boggling. Plankton on the ISS. My, what strong airflow you have, Grandma. All the better to spread plankton on your space station, my dear. How about a follow-up to what we knew was coming? Paper on life under the ice, devoid of sunlight, with tremendous implications for life on other planets and moons. Looking in the East Pacific reveals 3 storms. The one in the middle, Lowell, by far the most expansive. Karina still slated to swing back north toward where Lowell is heading, while the newest low should trek just off the coastlines. Remember that flooding in the U.S. Southwest the past couple of days? It was sheer off Lowell. Effects felt hundreds of miles away. We've also got to watch the Atlantic, as another system is set to run through the eastern Caribbean and then up north. We've got a northern flow with high pressure blocking the southeastern states, so trouble will drop to the north. Major storms coming in these areas tonight. Got to call a flood watch for southeastern portions of the South American continent here, with the convergence begging for massive downpours. The same 2 stories in Europe. The northern low is driving that moisture ashore from the west, while the Mediterranean funnels the same up north into the continent. Another lighter day down under, with moisture flows coming onshore Australia from the east and west. Just minor alerts in this area. 5,000 miles. The Mobile Observatory project crested the 5,000-mile mark on our journey yesterday, Head to observatoryproject.com and see when we're in your area. Montana this week, Western Canada next week. We've got the storm zones for the rest of the planet, followed by shots of our star to close. It's 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time, 4:30 a.m. local time, and that's the news. Eyes open. No fear. Be safe, everyone.
As I would always suggest to everybody, keep a close eye on the sun, keep a close eye on what's going on with the Earth's magnetic poles, because they still continue, the North Pole still continues to be migrating south. That's something that I would pay real close attention to. And the sun's just acting funny. It's something that obviously several people are catching. It's something I would recommend keeping an eye on, because, man, I'll tell you what, if we get something like the Carrington event happen today, it's not going to be pretty. And I don't remember what show in particular that it was that I recommended that be watched, but there was one of the shows I did where I at the end of the show I played some videos about Faraday cages, and I do believe I don't know if it's mentioned in the title, but it might be mentioned down in the whatever section. I don't know what section, the about section. And I would definitely recommend that everybody get a Faraday cage together and have one ready. It would be wise. And just like I said then, even if you don't yourself particularly have a way to generate power, if something were to happen, you still want to protect some personal electronics, because you're going to have a lot of data and stuff on them that you're going to want to keep. And just because you can't generate power yourself doesn't mean that you won't run into somebody later on that can. So it would be a real good idea. And I would recommend that people go ahead and take preemptive steps and do stuff now. If you've got data that is ultimately important, if you got photos that you have digitally saved, there's nothing wrong with going ahead and getting a 16 or a 32 gig flash drive or something like that, loading that stuff up on flash drives, and then protecting it from an EMP, and have that stuff already done and stored. That way, just in case something would happen, because a CME, you're not going to have a whole lot of warning time for that initial blast, which is the blast you're going to probably want to worry about. Both of them something you're going to worry about, but that initial one to get you. And of course, if it's an EMP that's brought on by another country, by the way of a nuclear device or any other type of device, you know, they're not going to call you up at home and let you know ahead of time. I really don't see that happening. So let's get on to some other news. Apparently, there's an issue with Ebola on the West Coast. Sorry about the phone. There's an issue with Ebola on the West Coast. Let me play the video for that and get you on the right screen so you can see. And yeah, there was a reason I warned about it. There was a good reason. Hang on, let me get the volume turned up.
Isolation. The hospital is waiting to hear back from the CDC, but while they wait, health workers are trying to identify those who have come in contact with this patient. NBC Bay Area's Jody Hernandez joins us in Sacramento this evening. And Jody, what's the latest from the health department?
Raj, health officials say the patient being held in isolation here at Kaiser is considered low risk for Ebola, but that's not stopping them from creating what they call a circle of containment. They're notifying folks who may have come in contact with the patient to tell them to be on the lookout for potential symptoms. But those who know this patient aren't the only ones taking precautions.
Been working to identify those people who have been in contact with this patient since the person became ill.
State public health officials say they're reaching out to people who may have come in contact with the Sacramento Kaiser patient who's being tested for Ebola. Though the person is considered low risk, they're taking every precaution.
So this patient is a patient that traveled to one of the affected areas and had some of the signs or symptoms compatible with Ebola.
Tonight, we've learned the patient recently traveled to West Africa and has been back in the country since early August.
It scares me. It scares everybody. Anybody who comes from Africa, you know, especially from those areas, we're afraid.
The pastor of what's known as Sacramento's African church says his community is worried. While he doesn't know who the patient is, he's asking his members to be cautious.
So we're getting ready to send text messages out, letting everybody know that if you have family that just come, they should, quarantine themselves for like 21 days.
Doing the right thing is all I want to do.
That's precisely what Quasi Lawrence is doing. He just returned from Monrovia and has quarantined himself inside a Sacramento home just to be safe. He showed us by Skype his fully stocked freezer that'll get him through the rest of the month.
I talked to my doctor, and he agreed that I stay home for 21 days. And he said it was a good idea that I impose or self-quarantine myself for my own satisfaction, even though I came in no contact, absolutely no contact with no Ebola victim.
Meanwhile, back here live at Kaiser, the patient remains in isolation in a specially equipped negative pressure room. Again, health officials say they do not expect this patient to come back positive for Ebola, but it could take a couple of days before results come back from the CDC. Reporting live in Sacramento, I'm Jody Hernandez, NBC Bay Area News.
All right, Jody, thank you. So that while that patient is being tested, there are 2 Americans in the U.S. with confirmed Ebola cases. They were both working in West Africa with Ebola patients when they got infected with this virus. These are their pictures. They were being treated in Atlanta. Now, both Americans received an experimental drug, and they say they're feeling better. However, it's impossible to know if that experimental drug is actually working because it was never tested on humans in clinical trials. We continue our coverage on our website. Just click on the link on our main page and scroll down for the information from the California Department of Public Health. That's at NBCBayArea.com.
So yeah, that's what's going on with the Ebola thing. I would recommend, as far as a prepper standpoint, that you would store about 3 months worth of food to be able to get through it. I realize the incubation period is up to 21 days. But people are going to get infected at different rates. So I would say 3 months. I mean, 3 months may not even be enough, but I would say that it would give you one good shot. And that's if you have the luxury of being able to bug in. Of course, if you are bugging out and you don't have a bug out location, I don't think you're going to be carrying 3 months worth of food on your back. So, of course, have skills like hunting, fishing, trapping, stuff like that. But I would say 90 days flat minimum, and that would be for a lot of different situations, not just a pandemic, but obviously with the borders, and we've got a story about the border later, with the borders being wide open the way they are and not being secured, and this running rampant. I know I've seen a report that it was also in another country now. This is probably going to spread. This is probably going to get out. I know I haven't been covering it much. Mainstream media hasn't been covering it a whole lot. It's the whole Ebola thing has seemed to kind of die down. I don't think the threat has died down. I just think that the fear level, in a sense, has died down. And we all know that shows like, your popular news shows, CNN, MSNBC, they go where the ratings are. And, since the ratings kind of started dropping off for Ebola, people got tired of hearing it. So therefore, people think it disappeared. So, and that happens. That's just the way it goes, unfortunately. They really don't care about people's health, about people's lives. It's just the way it is. So here's what we have on the border. Obama waits broader move on legal immigration. President Barack Obama is considering key changes in the nation's immigration system requested by tech, industry, and powerful interest groups in a move that could blunt Republicans' election year criticism of the president's go-it-alone approach to immigration. Administration officials and advocates say the steps would go beyond the expected relief from deportations for some immigrants in the U.S. illegally that Obama signaled he'd adopt after immigration efforts in Congress collapsed. Following a bevy of recent White House meetings, top officials have compiled specific recommendations from business groups and other advocates whose support could undercut GOP claims that Obama is exceeding his authority to help people who have already violated immigration laws. The president has not made a decision regarding next steps, but he believes it's important to understand and consider the full range of perspectives on potential solutions, said White House spokesperson Sean Turner. One of the more popular requests among business and family groups is a change in the way green cards are counted that would essentially free up some 800,000 additional visas the first year, advocates say. The result would be threefold. It would lessen the visa bottleneck for businesses seeking global talent, shorten the green card line for those being sponsored by relatives, a wait that can stretch nearly 25 years, and potentially reduce the incentive for illegal immigration by creating more legal avenues for those wanting to come, as well as those already here. It's just sad because we can't really, we don't have jobs in our country now, and I'm not, I know we should be a beacon of freedom, we should be welcoming immigrants to come into this country, but we got some things to fix. And right now we need to get our businesses back into the country. We need to stop this premise of better competing in the global economy. That is killing this country. If we can't better compete in the global economy without destroying our own country, without destroying the laws and the rights and everything that people have fought long and hard to get put into place. The 40-hour work week, this law, that law. I have just seen, whether it be by state or whether it be federal, I have seen the laws change, the labor laws change so drastically. Now people don't have a whole lot of rights anymore. They just really don't. And there's no jobs as well. So people's willing to just about accept anything and put up with anything in order to just be able to have an income coming in. And it's sad. It's really, really sad. And the only way it's going to stop, unfortunately, we're going to have to sacrifice. We're not going to be able to buy anything and everything we want at the cheapest, lowest prices. Because the only way you can do that is if it's made in China or Taiwan or South Korea or wherever, and at slave wages, with people making literally pennies a day and stuff in some cases. It's ridiculous. And the only way we can compete with that is to lower our standards of living. And I didn't think that's what this country was about. However, it is what major corporations are about. That's all they want. They want that profit. They want that, the most of money they can make. They don't care about the employees. They don't, and that's why I seen it many, many years ago, and I knew it was a mistake then, and that was these big franchise organizations. Everything became franchised, everything became huge, and what happened was the people that ran the businesses, that actually ran it, the owners and stuff, they got further and further away and more disconnected from the employees, and that just spells for disaster as far as the employees are concerned, because once you get far enough away, you don't care about those people that are underneath of you. If you own a company and you see your actual employees every single day and you know their names, you know how they're doing, you know their families or whatever, you care a little bit more and you want to see them do a little bit better. It's really sad the disconnect that's going on between employer and employee these days, and it's because of these major corporations. So they probably need to be broken up a little bit. We probably need to go back to smaller businesses, and we really, at least for the time being, we need to settle down on the global trade. That means less goodies and toys for us, but either way, it's a temporary problem. If we did that, it's temporary. We'll lose our goodies and toys, or some of them, for a little while. But if we keep on the trend that we're going on, we're going to lose them for good. None of us will have anything. We'll be lucky to eat. We'll be lucky to have a roof over our heads or anything else. And that's just the way it is. So we either sacrifice a little now for a short time or medium range time, or we sacrifice it all for forever and for our kids and grandkids and so on and so forth. So it's something that people really need to pay attention to and think about. It's nice being able to go buy anything we want, but there's a price. There's always a price to pay. In life, that's just the way it is, and there's no getting around it. Let's get on to the next story I have for you, if it ever loads up. North Korea moves tanks, armored vehicles to Chinese border. I thought this might be a little important to cover. North Korea has moved scores of tanks and armored vehicles to an army corps near the border with China in some kind of province. You pronounce it. The 12th Corps, which was established in 2010, is tasked with responding to the movements of Chinese troops in an emergency. A source on Monday said about 80 tanks have been deployed at the province, where there had not been a single one before. The corps has been turned into an attack force after it has been reinforced with an armored infantry unit, a unit of multiple rocket launchers, and a special warfare and sharpshooter brigade. We need to pay close attention to them. Some 80 new armored vehicles are expected to be deployed soon to the 42nd Brigade in the province. Leader Kim Jong-un has been reportedly ordered the rapid deployment of these new vehicles, which have a top speed of 80 kilometers per hour, carrying 10 to 15 troops. More than 10 new tanks with an automatic fire control system and a computer monitor have also been deployed to this unit. The source attributed the moves to fears that sole ally China could betray the North amid increasing pressure on Pyongyang, I can pronounce that sometimes, to give up his nuclear program. So, yeah, they're flexing their muscles, but I would be a little bit careful of North Korea. I know this guy's a little wacko, and I know he's not, his bite's definitely not as bad as his bark in most cases. But we really need to remember that he's got a satellite that's just orbiting Earth as we speak, right? And it's just orbiting Earth. And we don't know what's the purpose of the satellite. We don't know its capabilities, what it's there for, or anything else. I really kind of don't buy that. I think our government probably does know. But personally, that would be one reason I would fear the EMP that I spoke about earlier. Have something to keep an eye on. I always keep an eye on that crazy dude in North Korea, just for the simple fact that, big things come out of little packages. And it's a little country and a little dude with little brains. But he's just crazy enough to do something like that. He really is. So it's something to keep an eye on. All right, the next story I got for you is ISIS. Ominous signs point to ISIS connection at U.S. southern border. I forgot to move this link up with the other link, so I apologize. But let's go ahead. While the nation was preoccupied with angry protests in Ferguson, Missouri, explosive new developments are emerging at the U.S. southern border. So you always got to watch. I keep warning you. You got to watch when there's a big story going. They typically will blow that big story up so that you miss something else that's actually more important. So a news story surfaced today that indicated that there are signs pointed to a direct ISIS terror connection at the U.S. border with Mexico. Citizens who have constantly warned that the lack of attention to the illegal alien crisis would lead to Islamic terrorists crossing the border into the United States from Mexico are expressing alarm at the latest developments. Breitbart is reporting that U.S. Representative Ted Poe of Texas stated during a news forum that Mexican drug cartels are in regular talks with the dangerous Islamist terrorist organization ISIS. In the Middle East, ISIS has seized large sections of territory in Iraq and Syria. The group is so brutal that even Muslims who are part of Al-Qaeda express alarm over their tactics. In the areas they have seized, ISIS has slaughtered, abused, enslaved, and beheaded hundreds of Christians and Jews living in the region. The latest victim of ISIS barbarianism is American journalist James Foley, whom the U.S. confirmed today was beheaded by ISIS in a gruesome video. So this, I was calling this out right away when this border crisis started. I was calling out that they would probably be sneaking terrorists through the southern border. Obviously, that's one of the things that they were doing. Now, as far as being worried about these individuals, yeah, I do think they are very dangerous individuals. It kind of makes you question why they would want to get rid of the Second Amendment, doesn't it? why they would want to put pressure on, making it harder to get concealed carry weapons or permits anyway, or anything in, you know, I mean, because in a case like that, we are the best protection. Just regular citizens, just armed, ready. That way, if something goes down, it can be, the old saying, nipped in the bud before it spreads. You know, yeah, it's not an ideal thing. You know, it's not an ideal thing. You know, back on the Ferguson topic, I know there were people that were upset, you know, well, we don't want this in our town, and, you know, I get that. I understand that. I fully respect that. But at the same time, you know, it's a not in my backyard logic, because they aren't going to like when they are infringed upon with something they believe in, and it's not in their backyard, they're going to want people to speak up. You know, but right now, for whatever reason, they don't feel they should be concerned, and I think it's because the story keeps getting changed. But what it's about, I think it's changed quite a bit, and so they don't really know what it is that's being fought about. They don't know the truth as it is because of the way the mainstream media has spun it, and it's in their backyard. But you know, we got to do something. We've got to do something, and that, I have a feeling, is going to blow up, and we'll get to that here in a little bit. So yeah, I mean, as far as this border thing, it's something that it really shouldn't surprise anybody. It really shouldn't. Okay, let's go ahead and get to a little bit of what I was thinking about, or what's going on with Ferguson, and kind of related to it, not necessarily. Anyway, Department of Homeland Security, our favorite people, right? Along with the NSA, they have, what do they call it? They're warning ahead of this National Day of Rage. Now, I think there might be a video. Yeah, let me go ahead and play the video for you. Some of them, they're professionals. Maybe.
The U.S. Department of Homeland Security has issued a bulletin drawing attention to the hacktivist group Anonymous's plans for nationwide protests against the police shooting death of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. The group has called for a National Day of Rage on Thursday to span 38 major U.S. cities.
And that's something we should be concerned with. Let's see, the Threat Management Division of the Federal Protective Service issued the bulletin. Currently, there is no indication that protests are expected to become violent. However, recent protests in Ferguson have resulted in violence, property damage, and subsequent arrests, the bulletin reads. Brown was shot by Ferguson police officer Darren Wilson on August 9th. Wilson reportedly claimed Brown assaulted and charged after him. Some witnesses claim that Brown was surrendering when Wilson fired. Current civil unrest associated with the incident in Ferguson, Missouri presents a potential for civil disobedience directed towards identifiable law enforcement personnel, marked law enforcement equipment, and government facilities associated with law enforcement during the identified protest times and dates. It continues. One complaint made by protesters, the media, and Anonymous is that police in Ferguson have not only failed to provide transparency to the events surrounding the shooting, but that they have also dealt harshly with the demonstrations by using tear gas, rubber bullets, military vehicles, and curfews to keep the crowds at bay. In its bulletin, the Federal Protective Service went into great lengths to remind agencies to respect peaceful demonstrators' rights. You can insert your laugh there. FPS personnel are reminded the Department of Homeland Security does not consider nonviolent civil disobedience tactics to constitute criminal activities. Absent a specific actionable threat, you should refer to the list of suspicious activity indicators identifying and mitigating threats, the bulletin reads. We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us. Once again, the hacker collective threatened in a video posted Tuesday. Besides generating outrage, mostly on Twitter, the group has also tried to play sleuth in its attempt to determine the name of the officer who shot Brown. Darren Wilson was named as the shooter last Friday, but prior to that, Anonymous published the names of at least 2 other people not involved in the case. It is unacceptable for an officer to be named and then let go. St. Louis County identified Darren Wilson as Mike Brown's murderer, yet he has not been charged or prosecuted. In addition, reports say that if he is charged, it won't happen for another few months. This is not justice, they continued. The truth is, we cannot sit still and watch as protesters and journalists are arrested and shot at simply for raising their voices in unison and demanding that justice be served. August 21st is our day to rise up. Our presence will continue unless our demands are met, the group threatened in their video. Now let me tell you why I see concern in this, because I had watched that video myself. I could play it for you. I guess I could. Let me play the video that they did post, and then I will tell you my concerns with it. I really do take concern with this, a very serious concern.
There it goes there, now firing onto the crowd. Out!
This is the police department. You are violating the state-imposed curfew. You must continue to disperse peacefully, or you will be subject to arrest and/or other actions.
Citizens of the United States, we are anonymous. With each passing day, more people around the world are discovering the atrocities that are occurring in Ferguson. With the cold-blooded death of Mike Brown and the subsequent violence towards demonstrators, we not only as members of Anonymous, but members of humanity have grown restless for change and justice. It is unacceptable for an officer to be named and then let go. St. Louis County identified Darren Wilson as Mike Brown's murderer, yet he has not been charged or prosecuted. In addition, reports say that if he is charged, it won't happen for another few months. This is not justice. The truth is, we cannot sit still and watch as protesters and journalists are arrested and shot at for simply raising their voices in unison and demanding that justice be served. Again, we call upon the citizens of the United States to collectively gather in support for those who are suffering in Ferguson. We must indeed all hang together as one nation, or most assuredly we shall all hang separately. The world is witnessing our response. If we stay silent as we watch our brothers and sisters suffer the oppression that authorities has brought upon them, who's to say that the next attack will be in your city? We therefore once again call upon the citizens of the United States to take to the streets in a day of collective rage against the actions of police and their commanders. It is our time to get up from our couches, to turn off the TV, and to gather and raise our voices. Anonymous continues plans to assist with protests by leaving our keyboards and going on the ground with our brethren. Our collective will join those who demonstrate on the streets. Times, dates, and locations for protests will be listed locally and will be available in the description of this video. We continue to demand that Congress take immediate action and pass a bill that will enforce body cameras on local and state authorities, titled Mike Brown's Law. The petition is located in the description. We also demand the immediate arrest and prosecution of the identified shooter, Darren Wilson, immediately. August 21st is our day to rise up. Our presence will continue unless these demands are met. We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us once again.
Now let me tell you what concerns me about one of their demands there, the body cameras. If anybody understands the body cameras, Anonymous should understand the body cameras, right? So that is my only concern. I do have concerns. I normally support their ideals, their actions. I normally support it 100%. However, I cannot support these body cameras. And on the surface, I know it sounds like a great idea, like many other ideas out there. But there's a lot of information that is not being given. Imagine that. I do not like the idea of facial and body scan recognition systems. I do not like it. I think it's a violation of our rights. And I think it's wrong that, for an officer, for instance, to be able to just walk through a crowd of people, for instance, and their body camera scan and ID people, and then they'll have a subsequent headset to where, you know, if somebody scans up with this or that or the other thing, you know, they'll be able to go pick them out of a crowd. I mean, this makes 1984 look like a joke. It really does. This technology is well known. It's not something that's hidden. It's something that you can go and Google search, facial recognition, body scan. They're so good with this stuff, they don't have to see your face. This equipment, these computer software programs, can actually detect your walk. Everybody has an individual walk, just like your fingerprint, just like your biorhythm, just like anything else that is unique to each individual. Their walk, their exact walk, is also unique to each individual. So therefore, they don't even need to see your face to be able to identify you. I know there's a lot of people that will jump up and say, well, I'm not doing anything wrong. I don't care if they do this. Wrong. I'll tell you right now, with the laws that have been put in place in federal and state legislature, most every person on this planet or in this country is committing, if not just one, but multiple felonies each and every day. And I know that sounds absurd. I know that sounds crazy, but it's also true. Look it up yourself. Look at all the crazy laws that's on the books. They're just not enforcing them yet. I mean, they're getting everything in a row. It's all their ducks in a row, just like with the vehicles, the military vehicles and the equipment. Look, they've got it, and it's not just big cities like St. Louis. They've got this stuff all over. There's a link that's been going around Facebook here the last few days to where you can actually track what vehicles are in your area. And I don't know how accurate it is. That's the only reason why I didn't bring it here, because I don't know how accurate it is yet. If I find out over the next day or two that it is very accurate, I will most certainly post the link in the About tab so that we can get that shared and people can understand. But I looked at it myself. I looked at just a few random counties and random states, and, you know, it listed different, you know, what I assume to be AR-15s, or, well, the fully automatic variation. I guess it's an M4. I'm not sure. But anyway, the vehicles and all that stuff. And I did not see anything about all the riot gear and all that. I suspect it's a very partial list as to what they really have. But we can see with Ferguson, we can see the type of militarized police we have now, and the type of equipment they have now, and the weapons that they have now, and all that. So it's hard for me to understand that people cannot put this puzzle together and see, no, we don't need these body cameras. I know it sounds like a good idea. What I suggest is for you to have a camera. You have a camera, and don't be afraid to use it, and don't dare let a police agency tell you that you can't use it, or that they have to confiscate it, or whatever the case may be. You have a right to film. I highly suggest you film, and I highly suggest you do everything to protect that property. We're seeing in Ferguson how they are doing everything they can for credentialed media. They're attacking credentialed media. Al Jazeera, InfoWars, Jakari Jackson posted a video about how they started tear gassing, not just him, but they started tear gassing Al Jazeera. And then the police walked over and pointed the camera straight to the ground so the camera wouldn't record anything that was going on. I'm sure you can go find it on InfoWars. You can go look it up. I've only got one more story for you, so hang on just a second. I will find it for you. It's been going around Facebook as well, the video of that. So you may have already seen it, but I thought it was rather interesting. I mean, they dressed at Al Jazeera. It was pretty ridiculous. Pretty ridiculous. I'm looking now for the link. Hopefully I can find it quick. If not, I'll go ahead and move on. But it's been going around Facebook if you hadn't seen it. Actually, hang on. I'll just look it up on the Alex Jones YouTube page real quick. Only take me a second. I know I should have had this one, but I didn't think about it. But yeah, it's really ridiculous what it's coming to, and the media is just letting them push them around. They're giving them media. Oops, apologize for that. They're giving them media staging areas now, and I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. It really is. I mean, what can we do? You know, the only thing we can do is show up in numbers. You know, I know they've spun these protests off as being bad things and all that, and it's, you know, but we've got to do something. We can't just sit here behind our computers and expect the world to change for us. It just doesn't work that way. And they've been asking people to help. I just wouldn't be behind supporting the spotty camera thing. I just really think that's a bad plan. Really, really bad plan. I am hoping that I can run across that. I am not seeing it. Oh well. This might be it. I'm not positive, but this might be it. Let's see here.
Jakari Jackson, Infowars.com, Ferguson, Missouri. I guess about 30 minutes to an hour or so ago, we were live on the scene when curfew was broken. We were pepper sprayed. I'd imagine some people had some rubber bullets shot at them. It was a very horrific situation. Thinking back to the situation we encountered Wednesday when they were shooting the pepper spray, shot Joe Biggs with a rubber bullet, and all types of other horrific things. And they keep talking about the way they have to be this way to stop these horrific protesters and other things going on. No, that's not the case. They're out there being the aggressors against peaceful people who are out there exercising their First Amendment rights. And yes, I'll be the first one to tell you, there have been riots, there have been looting, there have been people being proactively violent towards the police. I'm not sweeping that under the rug. Those people need to be held accountable as well. But these people damn sure need to be held accountable for shooting tear gas at peaceful protesters. And I know Joe Biggs has a whole lot he wants to talk about that.
Yeah. For first thing right now, anybody who watches CNN, they're a bunch of liars saying on freaking national TV that there's no tear gas being used. Come on, all of us are sitting there, our eyes are burning. I saw people throwing up. Do your job, report the news, tell the truth, stop lying. You're a bunch of cowards. I hate seeing that. They were sitting there hiding behind the yellow tape. They wouldn't even come out and actually do their job. That's a bunch of BS. But we went out there and we suffered out there through the tear gas and the bullets being shot and all that. I'm Joe Biggs with Infowars.com.
Okay, and I found the actual video. Hang on. I found the video I was talking about, so let me go ahead and play that.
Everything is proceeding as I have foreseen it. Quote Emperor Palpatine. Not really hard to do. MSNBC is demonizing anyone that doesn't basically worship the Black Panther Party, the new Black Panther Party, and Al Sharpton, and trying to create racial division and destabilize things with the whole Ferguson situation that has now spread across the U.S. As we said back on Monday, it probably would. And people said, stop fear-mongering. No, I know how this stuff works. Anybody who pays attention does. Thousands march in Times Square and other cities and other town squares across the country. That's the Daily Mail. As new evidence emerges that Michael Brown was a thug who had just robbed the store minutes before being shot. And there are now reportedly witnesses, black witnesses, that indeed he did have the officer on the ground. Again, it doesn't mean that police don't discriminate against blacks sometimes, or that there isn't a police state in this country. The issue is we just go where the truth is. Does that say it's okay that the police attacked reporters and shot my reporters who were running away? Does that mean it's good to have paramilitary police aiming M4s at my reporters who are standing there with press passes with flagged microphones? Completely non-threatening? No, that's horrible. And see, this is how they're going to sell it. They're going to have MSNBC come out one-sided with Al Sharpton and Obama, and they're going to have the other side, Fox News, going, everyone is there for Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton is behind this. Meanwhile, Gateway Pundit reports it. My reporters have talked to people on the ground, on live Ustream. We need to get them to go out and do it in HD. Everybody's saying, literally, to you-know-what with Obama and Al Sharpton, and that this is being used to create a police state, and that all they want is the truth, and that thugs came in out of St. Louis using Craigslist to organize looting on the backs of protest. Thugs taking advantage of it, because in thug culture, that's what you do, is you loot as your form of protest, a.k.a. LA riots. So you got legitimate people that just want to know what really happened. And then you've got the police descending in. And I said this yesterday. I said, if you want nationwide demonstrations, and then if the police attack any of those demonstrations, nationwide looting, do exactly what the state police, with Homeland Security involved up to their eyeballs, and the local sheriff's department are doing. What they're doing is inciting people. The militarization is provocative. And the whole world is seeing this. This looks like Tiananmen Square or something. Now, the SWAT team has come out now and said they were helping the Al Jazeera and InfoWars camera people, because it was Washington Post, Al Jazeera, Infowars.com, all over there. Vice was, HBO was down the street and picked up one of our reporters that was vomiting. We appreciate that. And they're saying on the loudspeaker, turn off your cameras. They fire tear gas and rubber bullets at them and then go over and dismantle the cameras. Well, there's Fox 2. Despite reports, SWAT team helped Al Jazeera reporters, did not take their equipment. That's real funny. So you got MSNBC lying with one perspective, and you've got Fox News, national and local, literally putting out Joseph Goebbels level bull. I'm just sorry. The world is more sophisticated, folks. We're going to really look at this and really find out what happened. And if Michael Brown's a thug and he tried to kill the cop and the cop killed him, then, you know, we're going to report that.
So yeah, I mean, it's it's pretty ridiculous. I mean, they are doing everything they can to intimidate the media. I'm not saying Michael Brown's innocent. I am not saying that. I'm not saying he's guilty. I'm not taking a side in this football game here, because that's the way a lot of people are treating it. What I am saying is it's pretty apparent there was excessive force used, just like just the other day when the other young black man was killed, the mentally ill young black man that took a couple sodas and I believe some pastries, and I believe they fired 8 shots at him. I don't know how many shots hit him, but I believe they fired 8 shots at him, and he had a steak knife. A steak knife. There's 2 officers there with billy clubs, tasers, you know, and they both choose to pull their firearm and just open fire on the individual. And I just can't believe that there's not a whole lot, I guess because he had a steak knife, there's not a whole lot of outrage. Well, I'll tell you what, you know, it's a steak knife. I mean, last I checked, their billy club's a little bit longer than a steak knife. I'm not saying that these officers don't have a right to defend themselves. That's silly. But excessive force is excessive force. That's all there is to it. So anyway, let's get on to the last story I have for you. And this is one that should be concerning. And it has also to do with the Ferguson incident. Special operations contractors to deploy high-threat team to Ferguson. On Tuesday, the Missouri-based private security contractor Asymmetric Solutions, a company that hires former U.S. military special operators, said on Twitter that it intends to deploy what it called a high-threat team to Ferguson. We have been to Baghdad, Kabul, KL, Manila, Peshawar, Bogota, The company said, never guess we would deploy a high-threat team in our own city. According to 1776 Channel's Alan Jones, the company said it could not specify the nature of its work in Ferguson. According to Jones, a spokesperson said, we cannot professionally hand out that information, regardless of client or location. We put a security team of former SOF personnel into the STL area at the request of a client. The company gave a little more information on Twitter. It did not, however, name the client it was hired to protect. To clarify, we are not protecting the state, law enforcement, or those exercising their right to assemble. The company tweeted, escort detail augment for individual. Most of those responding on Twitter wished the company well. There was, however, one Twitter user who wished death on the company's employees in a profane tweet. Asymmetric Solutions said in one tweet that it was sad to see their services required in a town it described as peaceful, harmonious, metropolitan area full of good people. It followed up with another tweet announcing that it would not deploy employees to a spelling bee, in apparent reference to a misspelled hashtag on its original tweet. A post at the Gateway Pundit, a blog that has been closed following the events in Ferguson, said the report comes after several dozen area businesses have been looted and destroyed by rioters in Ferguson. According to Jim Hoft, 120 people have been arrested since the riots began. Of those, only 4 are said to be from Ferguson. Many are from outside Missouri, including one who allegedly came from California. And this is something, too, and we have to be very careful of just accepting what is said. Because a lot of times these arrests, sure, the numbers sound big, but they're stupid things. You know, like now they've got this rule in effect that you have to keep walking. You can't just stop and you can't just stand there. Now, I've seen this, it may have happened before this, but I've seen this tactic imposed on the Occupy Wall Street protests. It's just a way to dwindle the numbers down, because how many people, you know, can sit there and walk for however 8, 10, 12 hours, right? A lot of people have to take a break sometime. If they take a break, guess what? They get arrested. So you really have to understand these numbers. A lot of them are bogus things that they are arrested on. And it's just simply to do that. It's to get those numbers up for the shock value for the media, so they can say, well, there was over 100 protesters arrested. It makes it sound bad. It makes it sound scary, when the situation couldn't be any more far from it. This is ridiculous. We need to stop the games in this country, and the only way we're going to stop these games is, first, we have to stop the division. I've said it over and over and over and over. In this instance, we have to stop letting them make us think that this is a race issue. This is not a race issue. This is an issue of a militarized police. This is an issue of just outrageous behavior by the police departments. I mean, and it's not stopping. When you have media just the other night that are walking behind police, and a police officer raises his weapon and points it directly at media, who he has to know is media because they're carrying big old cameras. He has to know they're media, and threatens their life. And then refuses to give his name up. If you didn't know, that's that's a constitutional violation right there. You know, all these officers you see that are dressed up in all this gear, they don't have name tags on, or they don't have badge numbers on. That is a violation of the Constitution. They are not allowed to do that. But it's letting being happen, and it's because people are being divided. Once again, I've seen it over and over and over. It happens any time that the people of this country stand up and speak their voice. They step in, find some stupid little grievance that they can find among people, and they focus on that, and they keep people fighting, they keep people arguing, so that the real problem doesn't get addressed. It's just bait and switch. Now the government's doing it. It's not Circuit City no more, it's the government. And I know Circuit City's closed, but still. It's not them anymore, it's the government. It's ridiculous, and people aren't catching on to it. And it's not really that hard to catch on to. We need to focus. We need to focus. Not on Duck Dynasty, not on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, not on whatever TV show is on, not on the ball game, not on the NASCAR race. We need to focus on our rights, our liberties. We need to focus on us, on humans, and not ourselves. We need to get rid of that selfishness. We have to think about other people. You know, if your life is just cozy and fine right now, that is great. And I applaud you for being able to live a cozy life right now. That's great. That's great. But we can't forget our brothers and sisters that aren't doing so well. We have to remember them. You know, our country is only as good as our weakest person. Think about that. There's a lot of homeless veterans. Most of the veterans, or most of the homeless, are veterans. And what's being done about that? Really, absolutely nothing. It's really not. But we can spend billions and billions of dollars to go bomb other countries and meddle in other countries' businesses. We can spend billions of dollars to protect companies like Monsanto. You know, we can do all this stuff, but we can't help somebody out that gave their all for this country. That's ridiculous. That's what I got for you tonight. I will see you guys tomorrow night. I'm ready for Friday. I don't know about you, but I'm ready for Friday. I'm beat today. I will be keeping an eye on what's going on in Ferguson. I do believe more live streams are coming up. It does seem that more people are gathering. I will keep an eye on it. I will come back up live. If need be, keep an eye on either the Watchman News Facebook page. If you're a personal friend of mine, keep an eye on my personal Facebook page. Or if you're a YouTube subscriber, keep an eye on that. If you want God to tell you, I think he's got an email sign up now. Just kidding. But anyway, just keep an eye out. If you see me come back up live, it's probably because the situation did escalate, and I will be there to not only document it, but to bring it to you. So that's what I have for you tonight. I will see you tomorrow night. May God be with you. May he walk with you. Be one with your spirit. And remember, I do love you all. I wouldn't be here. I'm not making no money doing this. I get nothing out of this other than the satisfaction that I did anything and everything that I could to try and get the word out. So you guys have a good night. And I hopefully you won't see me back on tonight. But if something pops up, I will be. Otherwise, I will see you tomorrow night. Good evening.